Welcome to Hello Downtown, a podcast by Downtown Sioux Falls.
This is Hello Downtown, the podcast where we explore the people, the places, and the pulse of our city's core. I'm your host, Brandon Hanson, and every episode we dive into the stories shaping life in the heart of Sioux Falls. So whether you're downtown every day or just downtown at heart, let's jump in. So we are with Caden Whitman, leading up the Downtown Sioux Falls Residents Association. You're part of the state legislature. You are also working at the Y. Yeah. And Queen of Downtown, Empress of Downtown.
All of the above.
Absolutely. Yep. Easily find you anywhere in this district.
Yeah. I mean, listen, if you need me before 10 a.m., Josiah's is an extremely safe bet.
Yeah.
If you need me after 3 p.m., Carpenter Bar is a good bet. I like to keep my money in this 10 block radius. I'm really keeping this downtown economy floating.
Yes. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to kind of focus on you as a resident and the Residents Association, connection of downtown Sioux Falls, and walkability. A lot of people, one of the big aha moments is realizing that downtown just isn't a bunch of businesses and tall buildings. It's actually a neighborhood. And so there's routines, relationships, people of all ages, abilities, calling these 4 square miles home. And so from your vantage point, what are some of those everyday things that make downtown function just like any other neighborhood?
What I have learned over this past, more than a decade of living downtown is that you're right. This is a very vibrant community of folks who choose to either rent long-term, like myself and my partner, or they choose to own downtown with the variety of different condo options that are now available. So more and more people are starting to view living downtown as something that is achievable and supportive for the lifestyle that they want to live. What I have learned and what I have come to see is this incredible connection between the folks that live downtown. We are a true community. We see each other when we're walking past one another on the sidewalk, or if we're at Lewis or Sunshine, or even if we're at a coffee shop together or a bar. You start to gain familiarity with folks that are living in the same 10 block radius as you. And I think that the added element of walkability, which is something you mentioned, allows us to feel more connected as neighbors than I think a lot of the the more suburban communities.
Sure. It's a big deal to live downtown. No snow removal, no maintenance, all of that. So
yeah, I love that living downtown is becoming more attainable with the addition of these new apartment buildings downtown. My concern is I want to make sure they stay affordable, because I was 22 when I moved downtown. I couldn't like I said, I think it was $415 a month, right? And so how can we allow young people who are really the lifeblood of the downtown like bar, restaurant industry, how can we get them to live downtown in a way that they can afford and is attainable to them?
Yeah, that's a great goal. Absolutely. And you also mentioned the living room of downtown. That was sort of the artist inspiration for these traffic calming projects that you guys put on, which are incredible, by the way. They're beautiful. And I've seen it too. Cars are actually, I think psychologically they're seeing it and they're thinking, oh, I got to slow down.
That's
and
the
see
purpose
what this
of
is.
it.
And
Yeah.
it's working. And it's right on that viaduct, that state highway of 10th Street. And so it's a perfect location. So good job there. But I think calling it downtown the living room of the community, I think is part of the Downtown Residents Association.
That's our shtick, right?
Documents.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where did that come from? What does that mean?
It's just something he came up with while we were having a conversation. We were kind of discussing what the vibes were we wanted from the art, what was the vision. And I said, I want something that makes people feel welcome, that is in some way kind of connected to our roots. And of course, he's he comes from a Scandinavian background, so his roots were Scandinavian rugs. But I had never really heard anyone refer to it as the living room of our city before he said that. And then it kind of clicked in my mind, like, this is the place people come to sit down and gather, maybe the dining room, right? Like maybe kitchen/dining room, but it's, or living room/dining room, but it's the place where people come to gather and to sit together and to socialize and, be a part of a community. And so I loved when he said that. And I think it really rings true. We're the heartbeat, we're the living room of the city. There's so much happening in this 10 block radius. I mean, even 15 block radius, how far uptown has really expanded with the Sioux Steel district is just unbelievable.
anywhere you want to go in downtown, you can walk there in 15 minutes. This is one of the most
If that,
walkable
yeah.
areas in our
Yep.
entire city, and we keep getting ranked for it. One thing I do want to ask you about is, this is the only neighborhood in the entire city that has both a downtown Sioux Falls nonprofit organization and a resident association.
How lucky are we?
Why do we need both?
Well, we need both because there's a lot of different people that utilize downtown for a lot of different reasons, right? And I think that DTSF has traditionally and historically been a little bit more business minded when it comes to downtown Sioux Falls. And the number of residents have been growing, which I think leads to the necessity for a residents association to build those strong communities and those strong relationships. But I would say that having the two of us working alongside each other would be even more impactful and better. I know that you and I have talked about this a lot recently, but I would love for the Downtown Residents Association to become a little bit more robust of a resource for folks who are either already living downtown, interested in living downtown, looking to move downtown. Something I've struggled with is that there's this, I think, misconception that if folks choose to live downtown, it's more of a transient living situation. They're going to live there, rent for a few years, and then maybe move into a more suburban area. That is certainly true for some people. However, like I said, I've rented downtown for almost 13 years. I have no intention of ever living anywhere else. And so how can we impress upon those folks who are either renting or who are kind of new to downtown that this is a neighborhood and we truly do have a neighborhood association identity, and there is a way to gather outside of businesses and economic development downtown.
You're listening to Hello Downtown, a podcast by Downtown Sioux Falls.
Eric Gaikowski is here, the state director of AARP South Dakota. Can you tell us a little bit about AARP and the work you're doing here in Sioux Falls?
Here in Sioux Falls, AARP South Dakota, what we do is we engage with our members and the community to really talk about issues that are important to older adults as they age in place. We obviously want folks to understand that AARP is really about making sure that a community is the best place for everybody. It doesn't matter if you're 8 years old or 80 years old. AARP is really looking out for everybody to make sure that that community is more livable, walkable, age-friendly for all.
Nice. And you just a few months ago, you moved your offices to downtown. So can you just talk about what prompted that move? Why is your office location important to the work you do?
Yeah. So, we were at a more suburban location for the last 20 years. AARP opened the first state office here in Sioux Falls in 2001. And like you said, we moved here this summer downtown based on the fact that all of our partners are downtown. A lot of our member events are downtown. We do a lot of movies at the State Theater. Mm-hmm. We do a lot of partnership with the Levitt. We do obviously a lot of work with Downtown Sioux Falls in terms of the walkability, advocacy around pedestrian safety, built environment, stuff like that. So it just made sense for us to be downtown where, again, partners are, where the action kind of is happening. And this has kind of always been the petri dish of trying new ideas for our community. And we want to be where that all those initiatives are kind of at the starting point.
Yeah. So outside of AARP, post 5 p.m., what's the normal night look like for Eric Gaikowski?
Well, as a true AARP staffer, I am involved in everything in the community. Whether it's, I'm on the zoo board. I just turned off the Active Generations board. But my wife and I are now empty nesters. So we are involved in nothing but adult sport leagues. Like I play adult league soccer 2 nights a week. I play adult league volleyball 1 or 2 nights a week. My wife plays volleyball and soccer also with me. We're getting into pickleball. It's just constantly going somewhere we spent the last, 15, 18 years following kids sports. Now we do our own sports.
So before the workday, one thing that I know about you is that you are notorious for showing up to our meetings with non-downtown coffee in your hand. And so a fun fact for you, downtown has almost a dozen coffee shops, only one of which has a drive-through. So we're incredibly pro walkability, even down to where our coffee shops are walk-in only. And so I've got a couple of things for you. right in front of you, we've got something from Torrent Coffee Bar. And so this is in the Steel District in Uptown, in the first level of the canopy. These are macaroons. So please feel free, try some.
They look great.
You should have one. And a big pet peeve of mine, by the way, is hearing people eat. And so why wouldn't I give you some food? And then this is a gift card to Brew Falls.
Brew Falls in my building.
Both of these are just an elevator stop away.
Love it. Thank you.
Hoping that I can convince you.
Well, I will be honest with you. You're just lucky that I show up to meetings remotely close to on time when they're morning meetings. Cause you also know that about me is that I'm not a big morning person. So
yeah. Coffee helps.
Coffee does help.
So
for sure.
Hopefully you'll try these out and I'll completely change your behavior and your habits.
Okay. I appreciate that.
That's my goal. So,
well, and honestly, my goal in the next 10, 15 years is to talk my wife into moving downtown for our residents. So that will also improve my walkability and getting coffee and stuff like that. So,
yeah. Overall, what's it like to work in a nonprofit?
It's a labor of love because, you certainly could make more money elsewhere in the for-profit world. But the reality is of working for a nonprofit, you're really doing what you think is best for the community or the population that you serve. I'm fortunate with AARP to represent 100,000 AARP members in the state of South Dakota. Like 1/8 of the state's population is an AARP member. In the city of Sioux Falls, I think our membership is around 35,000 AARP members. We've got 1,200 volunteers or folks that take action or whatever the case may be for our issues. So again, being in a nonprofit, you're getting to really serve the public and serve your members in a way that you don't get to necessarily when you work for a for-profit industry or a company or something along those lines. It's been a great career in terms of just being allowed to be involved in a lot of really cool things. So like when I was with the American Cancer Society, I was the one who spearheaded our effort to become a smoke-free state. So when you think of like all the bars and restaurants in downtown Sioux Falls, the reason that there's no smoking in any of them is because of the work that we did leading up to those smoke-free efforts. And now you have all these very cool patios that happen because the smokers had to go back outside if they wanted to smoke. So all the restaurants decided to have both the opportunity to serve people inside, but also outside. And so those things that businesses kind of try different models of their business to make sure that they're serving everybody.
Sure, just be nimble and adapt.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's really interesting. I've heard stories about DTSF's history. That one of the first president or CEO of DTSF, Carol Pagonis, did a lot of work in advocacy with the city and legislation to change ordinances to allow patios in downtown. And so it's just kind of cool to see how two very different organizations continue to intersect over decades.
100%. Yeah.
Just similar missions and similar advocacy efforts. So,
and it's just those things that you get to be a part of that really make a lasting impact on like, again, I have 2 daughters. They don't really have any concept of a smoking restaurant. Like you would go to a restaurant and ask for the non-smoking section, but they have no idea that was even a thing, because of the work that I got to do.
Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah, there's a lot of leadership nuggets in there. And I think one very clear example of leadership from AARP specifically and this community was in 2019, Sioux Falls was named an age-friendly community by AARP, which means that the city is committed to improving quality of life for people of all ages. Things like walkability, like safety, transportation, housing, all of those pieces that make a place more livable and more enjoyable. So from your perspective, what's changed since 2019? What have we accomplished and maybe what's next?
So I would say just the awareness of making the community more accessible to everybody. I wouldn't say necessarily like ordinances have changed very specific around age friendliness, but really around that awareness of, when you see surveys done, everybody's talking about the issues that we have been preaching for the last decade, whether it's making the importance of this public infrastructure, making places beautification, more pedestrian safe, whether it's bump outs. Like people even know the name bump outs,
Yeah.
like before 5 years ago, people didn't know what a bump out was, or like a pedestrian island or things like that, just some of that terminology that's out there. And so that age-friendly designation really is the city's way of saying that when they look at policy, they're looking at it from an age-friendly lens, where, again, back to what I said earlier about what's good for an 8-year-old is good for an 80-year-old, where if you built the environment for an 8-year-old and an 80-year-old, everybody in between is going to be serviced by those community enhancements, because you're really designing your community for everybody, not just an able-bodied 40-year-old.
Absolutely. So AARP has this strong national lens too. It's not just a South Dakota entity. Seeing how cities across the country approach livability, just as an organization, I think you probably get a good lens into all of that. And so I would imagine that communities across the nation embrace walkability, livability to varying degrees and varying speeds as to when they adopt these sort of things. So from where you sit, where does Sioux Falls stack up?
So we have this really cool tool called the Livability Index. It's online. Folks can just Google livability, AARP Livability Index, and you can go down by zip code layer of how your city stacks up, or how your neighborhood stacks up to another neighborhood in Bangor, Maine, or Pasadena, California. And Sioux Falls stacks up really well. Like Sioux Falls, we often end up on like the top 10 list for like business, and top 10 for just places to live, things like that. But so we do stack up pretty well in that livability index as well. I think the things that I don't want to say we can do a better job on, but in theory, that's probably
We can take it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like multimodal transportation, like having bus service that connects with biking and walking, and having a more connected transportation network. A lot of other cities do a lot of work in that regard. And I think we're slowly getting there, but we're definitely a car-centric culture in the Midwest.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's just one of those barriers that we just haven't necessarily broken down yet to really be a true livable community for everybody, because there's not everybody wants to drive a car. They need to, because we haven't provided those services where they don't have any other option.
In the 1970s, in the early 1970s, I believe, Phillips Avenue in this area was turned into a pedestrian mall, which I think was largely a kind of a failed experiment, maybe a little bit ahead of its time. By the 1988, Phillips Avenue was reopened to cars, and you started seeing businesses kind of leave downtown. Main Street Sioux Falls, which is now called DTSF, our organization, was created. I'm just curious from that lens, what could have been done differently in your perspective? Is it a worthwhile idea for the future? And how does advocacy help us, and public input maybe help us come up with better plans and better development so that we don't have big failures in our history?
Yeah. And so sometimes we're a little harsh on ourselves. I wouldn't necessarily call it a failure. I think it's what we'd like to say at AARP is fail fast. Like if you fail at something, just get over it and move on to the next thing, and like figure out what you're doing wrong, but move on from it, and like figure out how you can resolve it and to be better. But I think from like a pedestrian mall standpoint for Phillips Avenue, I think the reality is maybe it was just ahead of its time. Who knows if that's the future may hold it. Maybe that's what people want, is another pedestrian mall there. But I think it's really, from our perspective, it's really about what the community wants, and how we can better listen to what the community wants. And I think that oftentimes, the loudest voices get what we get in Sioux Falls. And so be able to listen to all voices and give everybody a voice when it comes to asking those questions.
Yeah. Yeah. So public input's important.
Public input is hugely important.
Yeah. And what's the best way to gain that?
So, I mean, there's multiple ways to do that. Obviously surveys. The problem with surveys and public input sessions and things like that is the people that really care about an issue that show up. It's the people that are kind of in the middle of the road of those things. Like that's what you want to find out what they actually want. And they are definitely the hardest ones to reach, because they're also out playing adult sport leagues or
They're
something like
busy
that. They're busy every night.
Yeah.
But so that's why if you care about something, you should reach out and engage on the topic. I was just so impressed with the work that DTSF did with us on ARP perspective from the our open streets formats this summer. That was such a great series of events of the first 4 Fridays of the summer. And just the ability for us to show up in a different manner in unexpectedly, like on closing down Phillips Avenue for a couple blocks and really opening it up to pedestrian traffic and keeping the cars off of Phillips Avenue for a couple hours, just to really give people a sense of what could be if we decided to do it a little bit more often or something.
Yeah, it was a really ended up being a very cool set of events. So like you said, there was 4 of them. I think by the end of it, we saw close to 55,000 people.
That's amazing.
Through all 4. It's a very subtle way to do advocacy and to get public input to see if people would engage with it.
Yeah.
It's not your normal forum or your survey, like you said. It's more fun.
Way more fun and way more what I'm trying to say, more genuine. It's like just spur of the moment, like, wow, this is actually pretty cool what we could do if we just envision something being slightly different than it always is, to again rethink what that public space could be. It's not just for cars. We should be building a city for people, not for cars. And that's kind of what our hope is from an ARP perspective, is to have public officials understand that, but also the community to understand that too. Is like, why are we building our city just for cars when we should be building a city for the residents, the people that are there? And I think the other thing that folks don't necessarily always understand is that it's also good for business, because when you slow traffic down, when you get people out walking, they're seeing your business for a longer period of time. If you're driving down the interstate at 70 miles an hour, you don't notice the business that you just flown by. If you're driving at 40, you might see the sign and you're like, oh, I should go there sometime. But if you're going 20 miles an hour, if you're biking or you're walking, you have a lot of time to sit and think, oh man, I would love to pop into a Zambros. I'd love to go into Great Outdoors or whatever the case may be. Slowing people down. There's statistics out there that I don't have off the top of my head, but it definitely improves overall business revenue when it comes to when you slow traffic down, make people stop at a stoplight or stop at a stop sign or stop for pedestrians, to see something and say, oh, you know what? I want to stop in there because that looks like a cool store to go into.
I'm already stopped. Why not just peel off and go check out Zambros? I
think the other thing that from a broader downtown perspective that we could also improve upon is just making people more aware of how there is a ton of parking downtown. And I think that the folks out in the suburbs, they may not realize just how much parking there is downtown and how accessible it is. And the fact that you could find a parking spot that's actually probably closer than you walking into the mall.
When we're looking at the bigger picture of urban design and economic development, it's just important to note that downtowns across the country generate about 30% of a city's sales tax. And I think that's really why it's so important that when we slow these cars down and they peel off and they're spending more, it's less motivating to think let's just keep spending more and let's make more money. It's much more motivating, I think, to think about the ROI and the impact that it has on the other end of that journey, where the city's making more sales tax, which produces beautiful parks getting created for the entire community to enjoy. And so really that ROI of downtown is about taking care of the entire city. So from your perspective, when we talk about walkability as a design concept, and I think you even said the word built environment, how do these ideas translate into real economic impact? And can you unpack ideas like built environment and complete streets?
Yeah, I think so. The other aspect of the built environment, complete streets, things of that nature, again, it's building the community for community members and not just for car drivers. And again, when you're able to slow that traffic down, we've seen those economic impacts improve for local businesses, small businesses, whatever the case may be. The reality is, you're right. The downtown core of a city does have an outsized impact on the budget of broader city. So it's important to make sure that the cores of cities are strong. I love sitting on the Downtown Development Council because you're in some pretty amazing conversations about the future of downtown and making sure that we continue to see that growth and that keeping that vibrancy of downtown. We know that my age group, the folks that have had kids for the last 20 years and now have disposable income, disposable time, they want to be downtown. They want to be spending money. They want to be having fun, engaging in their community, being part of a community. And the more that we can get them out, get them walking, get them experiencing downtown, again, revenue just continues to grow. Revenue just continues to increase for those small businesses that give back to the community in other ways, not just tax revenue, but also from sponsorships for nonprofit events, things of that nature. So it's much more of a holistic community giving model, but it's also a way for, I keep going back to it, but community engagement. And that doesn't necessarily mean about like sharing your opinion on something, but it just means that you're part of a community. And when you care about a community and feel like you're part of a community, you want to make it a better community for everybody. And so the more that we can get people to engage on a one-to-one basis or out with their friends or out in the community, they're going to care about their community more and more. And that just, when we look at like age demographics, ARP does a ton of surveys of like different age segments. The one thing that we know, boomers and millennials want the same thing in a community. They want a more walkable, more engaged city core that they can have. They'd rather give up a car and be able to walk somewhere. So when you think of like a downtown Sioux Falls, where you've got a grocery store, you've got a movie theater, you've got your banking institution, you've got a downtown clinic or whatever the case may be. If you have all of those services within a couple blocks of each other, they'd rather have that than a house in the suburbs with a big lawn to take care of, stuff like that. Huge commute. Yeah. So boomers and millennials have that desire to be in that kind of a living, working, playing environment than the traditional single family house in the suburbs that apparently my generation, the Gen Xers and the silent generation before the boomers wanted.
Yeah, interesting. But how does walkability itself reinforce the identity and the definition of a neighborhood?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question because again, I go back to that being engaged in your community. If you feel safe out walking your community, you're going to care more about your community. You're going to be more civically engaged. You're going to be more engaged in kids' activities, nonprofit work, whatever the case is. The more you're out and about and engaging with others within your neighborhood, you care more about that neighborhood. So it helps the entire city when if you're more walkable, more bikeable, more just out and about, you're going to care more about that city.
How do you hope that your work specifically and personally will shape the downtown experience for the next generation?
Ooh, boy, it's a deep question. Again, going back to that age-friendly lens, like when people think about downtown, you're thinking about everybody that you want to be downtown. You want to be a true community. That means everybody. That's not just able-bodied 35-year-olds. You're thinking about parents with small children. You've got older adults. You've got everybody that you want to have downtown. You want a diverse community of people visiting your downtown, engaging in downtown, living downtown. And from my perspective, if I retire in 15, 20 years, and if there's any way that I can improve upon that and make sure that our built environment is built for everybody, I will consider it a success.
Incredible. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here. That's a wrap for today. We'll see you downtown. It's where you want to be.
Absolutely.
You are listening to Hello Downtown, a podcast by Downtown Sioux Falls Incorporated. I'm Brandon Hansen.
I'm Taryn Sietsema with Downtown Sioux Falls. Here is today's member moment. I'm here with Emily Wilson from First Interstate Bank, who is the Commitment to Community Coordinator, which is a super cool title.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you for having me.
I want to give yes, thank you so much. I want to give a shout out to First Interstate Bank for being our sponsor of our Downtown Gives coupon book this year, which is super exciting because that allows us to not spend money on the printing cost. And so it's more money for our nonprofit partner, who this year is Emily's Hope. So thank you for that.
Yes, you're so welcome. We're honored that we get to do this and participate with our community and help a great organization like Emily's Hope and all that they do. So
yeah, it's super exciting and we're kind of selling them gangbusters. So hopefully that continues on.
I love that.
Through all of December.
I need to get mine. You need to get mine.
Yes, you do.
Soon.
Everybody get out there and buy them.
Yes.
Okay.
There's a lot of great things in there that I can and will use.
Yes, you will. It's great value.
Yes.
It really is a great value. I've got some standard questions that I'm going to ask everyone that comes in for this. So we're just going to kind of rapid fire through them.
Love it.
And I'm excited to see what your answers are. So number 1, describe your business in 5 words or less.
Community, focused, relationships, collaboration, and development.
I love that so much.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Okay, this or that. Riverfest or Parade of Lights?
Parade of Lights.
Okay, how about summer patio drinks or winter cozy cocktails?
Here I'm the opposite. I'm a summer patio drink girl.
Me too. I'm with you there all the way. There's nothing better than sitting outside at night, especially in downtown Sioux Falls.
Yes.
Okay, how about what's your go-to downtown guilty pleasure? A coffee drink, a snack, hidden gem, or a little routine you can't resist?
Ooh, I do love Cafea. I'm always the barista's choice girl. So what this is they create your drinks. So you sometimes just get something completely unique and special and different. And I've had some amazing.
Okay, I love that because I feel like a lot of people probably don't even know that that's a thing.
It
so
is
that's
a thing.
like, that's a cool shout out to Cafea.
Yes.
And I think something that's unique to downtown Sioux Falls too.
Yes. And the baristas, I think hopefully they get to have fun and try something new and be creative and try different drinks and get things out there. So
that's really cool.
Yeah.
I love that one. Okay. How about if downtown Sioux Falls had a mascot, what would it be?
Oh, that's a hard one. But I feel like some sort of a bird of some sort, like something that just kind of sees over everything and is just kind of the heartbeat of the city and takes flight. And I feel like downtown helps Sioux Falls take flight.
I like that. That's a good one.
What bird specifically? Not sure yet.
Okay, we'll come back to you later on what kind of bird. Maybe you can shoot an email or something. Let us know what bird you thought of. I'm sure it'll come to you. That's a good one though. Okay, how about people walking into First Interstate Bank for the first time? What's a key thing they should know about your business?
That they can ask us questions. That a big component of First Interstate Bank is that we want to meet you where you are with what you have and help you develop and create your goals and your visions. And we want to be part of that journey with you, that we're there with you every step of the way. So
I love that so much. And I think that describes downtown Sioux Falls just kind of in a nutshell too. Like everyone is here to help out. And I just love that for your business too.
I agree. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily Wilson. This was fun.
Let's do it again.
I appreciate it. Thanks for taking time to hang out with us on this member moment.
This is Hello Downtown.